All right, let's go.
Let's do it.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the pod.
Good morning. Good morning.
Matt and Peter here.
What's up? What's up, everybody?
We have a lot of new people that have been coming in over from Instagram. So welcome.
Absolutely. You've been throwing some new clips that are not from the podcast.
Yeah.
It's from your home studio onto the Instagram ruse. So I believe they've been receiving really, really good feedback.
Yeah. I've tried to do some, I've been trying to record from home a little bit, and I put together just some thoughts and try to relay those thoughts, and all of a sudden put them out there, and they've been going crazy.
So why do you think you're getting a lot of responses from these kind of personal clips that you're doing at home?
I wish I could. If I knew how to get a clip viral, I'd do it all the time. Yeah. No clue.
Well, the first time I clicked on one of them, he had like 57 comments or something like that on one of these things.
Right now,
you're clearly touching on a nerve that I guess either the market is responding to, your demographic is responding to, or maybe they're just suggesting it to people who want to flame up the comment section.
It's a mix of both sides. So we have a lot of people like, awesome, we like what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Thanks for being logical, which we hear a lot of. And then you have the other side of, oh, you guys are fucking devils.
I was reading this one comment, which it was just these guys spend so much time on the comments.
Yeah.
It was like 2 paragraphs of comments, and the entire time I was reading his comment, it was like, motherfucker, you have no idea what it's like to be Matt. So he's injecting his own assertions around who you are and what you should be thinking. It was crazy.
And one person said, celebrities like you should something, something, something. And I said,
I saw
celebrity.
Celebrity.
What the fuck? Who's this guy?
Yeah, I wish we had a celebrity payday the way the other celebrities are paid. But clearly, you're making waves. I think the takeaway, Matt, is that you should continue to do it.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about continuing to do Instagram clips at home?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think it's a good way to put out a coherent thought because when we do this podcast here, we're literally just shooting off the hip.
Yeah.
We think of a topic that we want to start on, and we have no idea where we're going to end. And we just kind of go.
Would this be an opportunity for us to suggest to the YouTube comment section as well as Discord channel that you give us ideas and topics to discuss?
Always open up.
Always open. So guys, smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Join the Discord. Let us know if there are any topics that are relevant to you and you want us to discuss.
An interesting thing to note that the person who set up the Discord for us is in the office with us today.
That's correct. We have a couple people in the office today visiting us from Ireland and Paris.
That's correct.
Amazing stuff.
Northern Ireland, Belfast.
Belfast, yeah.
Which I only know Belfast, I believe, from movies. And
probably.
Is Peaky Blinders from Belfast area? Is that right?
Are they? Are Peaky Blinders? Yes, I'm getting a nod from the crowd out there. Yes, Peaky. I love. Dude,
most gangster show ever, by the way.
If you haven't watched Peaky Blinders, this guy is absolute gangster. I mean, it's the entire rise of a family from poverty, essentially, all the way up into politics, which is essentially like the highest level of manhood, is that you can get into politics. But the amount of influence, the amount of murder, the amount of deception, the amount of infidelity, and all the malfeasance that goes along with it makes it an amazing story.
And to contrast that, we have a Disney dancer with us.
Oh,
which is like the opposite of Peaky Blinders.
Which is the opposite of Peaky Blinders. It's a different type of market demographic, but certainly ridiculously appealing. And we spent a good half hour talking to this couple about how they could level up their game, their content game, leveraging Ireland and Paris and Disney princesses, these types of things.
I can't wait to see what they come up with.
You know what? They just have to remember the small fish when they blow up.
Exactly. Right? Don't forget us. VIP back.
Don't forget us.
Backstage access. That's all I'm asking.
Exactly. Free passes. We got kids.
It was Father's Day this weekekend.
Absolutely.
Happy
Father's Day. How was your first Father's Day?
It was amazing.
I saw pictures.
Yeah. I was gonna do the traditional route of it's Father's Day. I'm gonna take the morning off and I'm gonna play golf. That's what a lot of fathers do. And for some reason, it just didn't work out. And at first, I was like, oh, I kind of wanted to play golf today. But then I was like, okay, this is an opportunity. So I did brunch with my daughter, just the two of us. And then we spent the day together, and then we were hanging out at the golf course, and it was the most amazing day.
Keep doing that shit.
Correct.
Like, make a routine, make it a ceremony with your daughter that if I'm not telling you what to do, but if Father's Day is going to be your jam, the day that you hang out with your kids or your daughter, like, make that a consistent thing. That'll be one of the things that she will remember to the day that she's dead, to the day that she dies.
Because I saw a very interesting dichotomy at the golf course. There was a lot of dads that were like, oh, I finally got away.
Yeah, it's
And
Father's Day, my time alone.
It's my time. And then I saw an older generation of men kind of hanging out at the bar area. And I was like, what are you guys doing Father's Day? And they're like, oh, my kids didn't come visit me.
Ooh.
And I'm like, you spent their entire childhood spending your time away from them. And now that you're older, you're surprised that they decided they're not going to come visit you for Father's Day. It creates this weird situation, right?
Well,
and you can see the sadness in their eyes.
Well, yeah. Well, you can see the amount of regret that they are creating in their narrative through their brain as to why their kids aren't showing up. But I have to tell you, one of the best digs that I have ever heard in person, Matt, and it was, if you like, sometimes when someone digs on another and they crack a joke or they say something sarcastic, and you're just like, fuck, dude, that like fucking hurt, bro. Let me give you the best quip ever. I was, long story short, I was hanging out with a bunch of colleagues up in, I think we were at either Miami or New York, doesn't matter. And we were talking about, your successes in life. We had these egomaniacs in the group that were talking about, I've done this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then one of the guys who I guess was digging on his friend, what he said fucking broke my heart. But it was one of those, oof, like, fuck. He looked at him and he said, at least my kids love me. I was like, fuck, dude. Think about the depth of that. Out of all the great things that you can do in life, all the accomplishments, the awards, the accolades, the network, the influence, the power, your kids don't fucking like you.
It's crazy.
It doesn't matter whatever the fuck you've done in life. Your own flesh and blood, who you had 18 years, give or take, to propagandize, as we like to say, instill values, instill love, instill familial, values, these types of things. And you fucking failed. Your kids hate you. Like, I don't think there's a worse dig in the world when someone's on top of the mountain saying, I've accomplished this. You just look them in the eye and say, well, at least my kids fucking love me. Think about how harsh that is, especially for fatherhood.
So I've made a conscious decision that Father's Day, I will make it about my daughter.
And your kids are going to love you.
And hopefully when I'm 60 and I'm hoping my kids come visit me, they will. Because it becomes a part.
Because they actually like you.
Well, not because they only like me, but because it becomes routine for them. It's Father's Day, I'm supposed to spend time with Dad.
I like that. Each family, and especially the head of the family, gets to have opportunities to create traditions. I feel like this could be one of the traditions.
That's exactly what it is, creating traditions.
Yes.
Again, it was really sad to see the fathers out there. They're like, my kids didn't come visit me.
I mean, and what do you say to that?
I mean, what can you say?
You can't. The only thing you can say really is clearly you fucked up, or clearly there was some division, or clearly you lived a life where your own flesh and blood don't want to spend time with you. I can't think of a more indicting proposition than that. Like, out of all the accolades and success that you could have, if your kids don't like you enough to want to hang out with you, Matt, your life is basically useless.
And when it's too late, it's too late.
It's too late.
There's no going back.
You're not wrong.
It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of grown men, that you can't go back and change the time.
You can't. So I want to bring up a question here that, I never pegged you as a man of deep tradition. Is that something that you feel like you are a man of tradition, or is it one of those things that didn't really rub off on you from maybe your parents or whatever?
I think there are certain traditions that kind of, the ones that you grew up with from when you're young, you don't even realize they're tradition because it's so ingrained in who you are that you don't even realize you're trying because you just do it automatically. I think this is one of those situations. I think as I get older and now that I have a kid, I want to create more traditions. But again, I wanted to do it in such a voluntary way that my kids naturally believe that's how life should be.
Yeah, yes. So if I can amend it and add to that, I would say continue to date your daughter. Like this is something that I do with my daughter every month. I date her, I take her out once a month to a restaurant, movie, whatever, and it's just daddy daughter day so that she can be instilled with the values of this is what a caring man should be like. A man who takes interest in me, in my life, is communicative to me, spends time, is present with me, these types of things. So I would encourage you to not do more than just the Father's Day thing. Is also continue to date your daughter. I'd amend to that even more and say date your wife, but I don't know if your wife cares about that.
No, she only cares about the kid now. I'm like, I'm forgotten. I'm forgotten at home.
Throw me money, man. As long as the money keeps dropping into the bank, then I'm good.
She had no care about me whatsoever anymore. And I'm okay with that.
Are you really?
I am. It doesn't bother me one bit.
I think some. I'm curious about that. I wonder if there's anybody out in the crowd that has a wife that still cares about that and still wants to date their wife, or has a wife that wants to continue to be dated. I feel like I should go over there and talk to our two guests and ask them, but they're still young. We're like 20 years older than them.
I think some people, like some men, enjoy the dating and enjoy going on dates. I'm just not that guy.
Neither am I.
Yeah, I could do without
I
it.
say here's money. Here's money, baby. Do you? Yeah. I'll do me.
Some people call it a date. I call it dinner.
regular form. So you spent an amazing Father's Day with your amazingly beautiful and sophisticated daughter. First Father's Day, how would you say it came out?
I loved every minute of it. I mean, I'm so grateful that my morning plans got changed, because if they had not gotten changed, I would not be in the position I am right now. So grateful that somehow the cards aligned where I was forced to do it.
Really? I didn't feel like what you communicated was that there was a forced nature to it.
Well, I was going to play golf. We went to a wedding the day before. We were up a little later. We woke up in the morning. My wife was going to watch the baby, take her to church, and I was going to, go golf. She wasn't feeling well when she woke up, so I was forced to change my golf plans. My plan was I'm dad now. It's my day. That was my goal. That's what I was going to do, because that's what everyone around me does, right? And I'm glad I didn't.
Well,
And I don't think I'll ever do that now.
I'm glad you had that experience, and I also am glad that you used the word dad, because there's a difference between being a dad and being a father. This was actually told to me by one of my mentors. He said this. He said, anybody can be a dad. It takes the right man to become a father. And I think the nuance wasn't lost on me, is that anybody can shoot the sperm. Bleep. I guess we can bleep that out. I don't know. Anybody can shoot the sperm and become a dad. But fatherhood, his intent of that message was fatherhood is an assertive engagement with your progeny, with the kids that you've brought into this world. So I think you're doing a good job trying to be a father and not just be a dad.
So we received a very interesting comment that got me thinking just a little bit. Hey, can you pull it up, Will? I just want to get your gut reaction to this.
Oh, it's gut reaction. I like this. All right, here we go. This one comes from @Danaseda5878. He said, I recently found your podcast. It's refreshing to find conservative Asians speaking so logically and calmly. The only negative is when Peter continues to use vulgar C or P words, and it wasn't really necessary to get your points across. I think your podcast would be a great listen to our children all around, but because of some of the language, it makes it hard to do. Maybe that isn't your goal, and if so, disregard my comment. So you're not wrong. I am an individual who can fundamentally choose the words I use in podcasts and in social settings. I think I am more liberated and free in this conversation to use these types of words with you. If Matt were to ever tell me to not use particular words for the greater good of this podcast, I would absolutely not use them. However, at the same time, I take full responsibility for the words that I use. And so I feel in my world that as long as I can take responsibility of what I say and be able to give context as to the reasons and rationale as to why I've said it that way, then I'm okay with it.
I mean, the choice of words obviously doesn't bother me at all, or does it bother 99% of the people that watch and listen to us. The one thing that kind of made me stop and go, is that he said, I would like to be able to watch it around my children. Because he wants to instill more conservative or these types of views to his children. And I thought, would you want your children to listen to content that used vulgar language?
My children already listen to content. Like, so you know this about me. I'm driving every weekend to races with either my family or just my son. During those long drives, whether it's to Miami, North Carolina, whatever, we listen to podcasts. And I'm also often listening to Lex Friedman podcast or Joe Rogan podcast or any type of long form content that I don't have any other time to consume because they're 3-4 hours long, right? And so my kids hear this stuff and it really doesn't register. And so I'm going to only pull from my heuristic and my experience, which is most kids, when they're listening to long form podcasts, they're not clued in at all because it's long form. There's no visual value to them. They're talking in slow form like what we're talking, and there's no engagement to them. So I have found that the language isn't that big of an issue, especially for preteens or tweens that I have now, early teenagers. But at the same time, the content that I'm listening to is far above their maturity level that they're not engaged anyway. So I would say if you're listening to Matt Kim podcast and we're talking about politics, religion, family values, social things that are happening in the world, these really aren't topics for children anyway. And so given that the topic content is so high level and so kind of requires some level of maturity to fully understand, the language is, I think, part and parcel of that, and most kids probably shouldn't be listening to us. However, we could make it. If we reduce the language, we could certainly open ourselves up to a greater audience. But at the end of the day, how many 12-year-olds are you going to have who want to look and listen to Asian conservatives talking about the ridiculousness of our political atmosphere? I just don't see that really happening.
And I don't know if it's something that they want their kids to actively listen to. I think it's just being able to have it on at home while their kids are maybe around.
Right. And they don't want the random F-bomb and the random C-bomb to
And I told you the C-bomb's harsher than the F-bomb.
But you still didn't bleep it out, though.
No, of course not. Fuck no.
But so
it's weird. Words are weird, right?
Words are. My wife is super conservative. Never drinks, doesn't smoke, never touched any of that stuff. Just super puritanical in some ways, which I can greatly appreciate because I'm a fucking degen, right? I've tried everything. Not everything. Haven't sucked dick yet. I haven't done crack and haven't sucked dick. So I haven't done the Hunter Biden thing yet. But for me, when it comes to words, when I am unfettered to communicate the way that I feel and fully expressing myself in the moment, I feel that is my true authentic self, F-bombs and all, C-bombs and all. And for me, I think the value of me being able to be unfettered without mental blocks or mental constraints is far superior to the maybe the listener who's listening to this on blast in their garage and their kids are playing outside and they could end up invariably hearing it. At the end of the day, my world is in most cases a world of men. Am I surrounded by F-bombs and all sorts of things?
Of course.
It is what it is. Is my son, 10 years old and he's at the track.
Yeah, he hears it all the time.
For 4 days a week. All he's hearing is, fuck this engine, fuck this sprocket. It's fucking, and he is just fine. He is just fine. So I think if you communicate to your kids what language is and which words that you don't appreciate in your household to use, but that doesn't mean that you can't listen to other people who use it. I think that's a fair balance.
So have you ever had that conversation with your children?
Of course. My wife has a conversation with my kids, with me there. They say, Appa uses this language. You don't use this language. When Appa's dropping F-bombs at the track, son, you don't use that language too. And there have been moments as a 10-year-old when he has used some improper language and I've corrected him myself. It seems contradictory. It seems like I'm being hypocritical, but there's a time and a place for it. 10-year-olds shouldn't be dropping F-bombs. If you're a fucking 42-year-old, you can drop F-bombs as much as you want.
But as we know, children mimic their parents.
Right.
And to tell them no when you do it, I know you say it's not hypocritical. It's a little
It
hypocritical.
is hypocritical, but there's also
I'm gonna call you out on it just a little bit.
You can call me out on it. There's actually a great saying. It goes, all things are permissible, but not all things are beneficial, right? So just because everything's permissible for me, it doesn't mean it's beneficial, but at the same time, I don't see it as a detriment.
I think it's important for parents, and it's hard for me to really speak on this matter because my daughter is so young. So I haven't had to have this conversation. This is not a problem in my life yet. One day I'm going to have this conversation. My wife hates it when I say fuck at home because she's like, the baby's listening. And I say, she doesn't know what the fuck I'm saying. And she said, you said it again. And I said, what do you want me to fucking do? And she says, oh, you just did it again. It's like a cycle. So there was a story in the news that I talked about on Instagram this week. It was a family in Seattle, Washington. A convicted felon, black convicted felon, shot at a family sitting in their Tesla at a stoplight in the middle of the day.
Oh, I heard about this, man. It was a pregnant lady.
Pregnant lady.
Yeah.
He killed the pregnant lady.
Oof, I think
the baby died, 8 months pregnant, and the husband was critically injured. Believe he's going to survive.
Good.
And they have a 3-year-old.
Oh, also. I didn't know they had a 3-year-old as well.
So the real issue here, I think the biggest issue is how many people died.
Well, if she was 8 months pregnant?
8 months pregnant.
So they could certainly politicize this as the right and the left can politicize this as an opportunity to get into the rights of children or unborn children. Here's the reason why I believe, and I'm not tracking this story, but the reason why I believe this story is going to be a nothing burger
is a nothing burger.
Because they're Asian. And it involves the wrong perp.
Of course.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the obvious one.
The only way that it's going to become a nationwide news story is if it's a Indian or it's a Hispanic
Nazi.
or it's an or it's like a Arabian white supremacist.
That would
Wait,
be
actually, black people can be white supremacists now too.
Of course. Of course.
Sorry.
Yeah.
He wasn't a white supremacist, so it doesn't matter.
But that's the hard part, right? Because, and I believe I looked it up, in Washington state law that, well, let me backtrack. They did an emergency delivery on the baby because of 8 months. And they did the delivery and the baby didn't survive.
Oh,
it's so sad.
Sorry to hear that.
According to Washington law, if the baby was born, it's a person.
Okay.
If he wasn't born yet, then he is technically not a person. And I say he, I don't know if it's he or she.
So I have a question that's rising up in my gut. It's going to be a great clippable question because this is going to be a defining moment on the Matt Kim podcast. Here's the question. At what age in the womb is that to you considered a child?
I think once
a human.
I think once you have a viable baby, it's a child.
But viable babies is a relative consideration because there have been viable babies at 28 weeks, 30 weeks. There have been obviously past second and third trimester, obviously. And so let's see if we can nail Matt to the wall. What is a viable human baby timeline for the Matt Kim guy?
We had a miscarriage when I think maybe 1 month in. I felt like we lost a baby. It was only a month in.
I remember. I appreciate your honesty about that.
She wasn't showing yet. At 1 month, you don't have symptoms. You don't have morning sickness. Like, it doesn't really kick in.
You
could. A little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not as extreme.
Yeah.
And you don't visibly see it. There's no movement, nothing. But when we found out, we were crushed. We didn't think, oh, like, no big deal. It's just a bunch of cells. Like, I don't think that mind ever crossed our mind.
Interesting.
Right? It was like we lost a child. And it was really hard for us. It took us months to get over that. So if you ask me for an exact date and number, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea how that works. But I do know how I felt that moment I found out.
And in many cases, the feeling trumps any type of objective, written down, codified law or reality. You felt, even at 1 month, that you had lost. and that created a grieving moment in your life. Is that fair?
Correct.
So if we base your worldview on your feeling and experience alone, then one could pin you to the wall and say, Matt Kim defines life at 1 month.
Correct. And it's a really tricky subject for a lot of people. I believe in less government. You know that?
Yep.
I think that a woman should have her choice. That's her choice. She can do it as she pleases. I think we have a huge problem in society where we promote abortion. I think that's really fucking weird. We had that before where during the State of the Union address and the guys were wearing heart abortion. That's weird.
It was overly aggressive, that messaging, for sure.
I understand that that the laws were originally created to be rare and for extraneous situations. But for people to use as birth control, I think it's wrong.
The core issue is it really boils down to killing. That's like the bottom line. And what the periphery around that action of killing is the definition of when are you killing something that matters. That's essentially the argument, is that people oscillate on this spectrum of when it matters to kill something. I think that's poor circular reasoning. And the reason is because we're all arguing about killing. If we go to base logic, we should all agree that no killing is probably the best answer, period, full stop. And so the oscillation on the spectrum of when are you killing a baby? Is it at 20 months, 40 months, third trimester? When is it? I think is a nothing burger. It's a non-issue because we're all talking about the same thing. We're killing something. So if we reduced, and this is where government comes in, where does government have the position to tell us when we're killing something? I think it should, just like you agree, less government, which means the decisions need to roll down to the states. And states need to determine where they feel that line is. And since clearly, according to social media, people are far more mobile now because a lot of liberals are moving out of Florida. I don't believe it. But you can always move to a state that has those particular laws that you support. And you can remove yourself from a state like DeSantis' Florida if you feel like they're being too anti-trans or they're being anti-abortion or they're being anti-what have you. But at the end of the day, you have the decision to move. You have the decision to go somewhere else if you don't like those laws. But I think for all intents and purposes here, for an 8-month-old, I'll give you my answer. For an 8-month-old or 8 months in the belly, this woman was murdered, and I think she was shot like 5 times. Like it was egregious.
Crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Like you shouldn't shoot anybody 5 times. Double tap.
Just complete, absolute random act of violence.
Oh, bro, that's just ridiculous. I think he should be charged with 2 counts of murder if I were the judge in that case. What about you?
He is being charged with 1.
Really?
Yes.
Well, hopefully one's enough.
1 for murder and 1 for aggressive assault or whatever for shooting the man.
I'm surprised. Usually they are able to extrapolate 5 different counts, right? Where it's intent, it's the action, it's that you had a gun, you were accosting, you stopped traffic, right? You broke a law, you jaywalked. Like usually they try to line them all up, but maybe it's because this perp isn't the right type of individual to line it up for.
I mean, if they were to charge this man with killing 2 people, that changes the complete worldview of the entire pro-choice movement, right? Prosecutor said they're seeing whether they can also charge him for the death of the baby, the girl.
So this is the Associated Press Seattle. I just have to bring up this idea. Here's the title: Man exhibiting mental crisis, charged in unprovoked shooting of a pregnant woman in Seattle. This is such a passive title. If this was someone else, it would say white supremacist who believes in Nazis, right? I mean, let's be honest. Because this doesn't
narrative.
Yeah, because it doesn't fit their narrative. Look, the first words here: man exhibiting a mental crisis, charged with unprovoked. That's 2 passive words that are showing that it's not his fault. It's not this man's fault. It was unprovoked, and he was exhibiting a mental crisis.
I mean, this is the line right here. The King County Prosecutor's Office said Friday that state law allows murder charges to be brought if the victim was born alive. It is reviewing the medical records to determine whether a murder charge is warranted for the baby's death. They're trying to figure out if this baby is considered alive or not. 8 months.
I think it's a non-issue. I think the baby certainly is alive at 9 months in the womb. And if they did an emergency C-section at 8 months, then in most cases, that baby would survive.
And I get it. The idea of when does life start, it's gray. You'll find arguments on all sides of it, right? And it's not something that I can unilaterally say, this is the exact moment. I don't know what that is. I think in anything so gray, the government just has to get out of the way.
I think that's probably a good rule of thumb.
But we should not be encouraging people to do this. I know so many girls that once they have their first and second abortion, they so easily get into their third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
You know, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate that my experience has been like that as well. It's like once you open up the floodgates, then you no longer are constrained. You know?
It's like there's that stat that everyone throws around. 50% of all marriages end in death. I mean, 50% of all, that too.
Bruh.
50% of all marriages end in divorce.
Sex closer to 60%, yeah.
But that's not counting how many people are repeat divorcees.
Actually, the statistics are even worse. You have a 60% chance of getting divorced in your first marriage. Statistically, your second and your third, you have like a 0% chance of it succeeding. But for some reason, the fourth marriage goes back up to 60.
Really?
Yeah, look it up, Will. Look it up. Seriously, if your first marriage doesn't work out, your second and your third are almost guaranteed to not work out. It's your fourth marriage where you finally figure out that it really isn't them, it's you. And then you're just like, fuck, I need to fucking work on me, or just kind of be accepting of the fact that I can't do this right. It's not the women's problem or man's problem. It's my problem type of thing. So I think those statistics are relatively true that if your first marriage doesn't work out, your second and your third are guaranteed to not work out. And then your fourth one actually works out.
This one was a tough one, the story.
Well, I think what's I appreciate about this story, I'm very sad that this happened, but I think what I appreciate about it is it opened up this content door that it's okay for us to talk about, abortion, because that usually is a
tough one.
It's a red button item, right? People, we push that button, people's heads explode.
Yeah,
it's like, how could you think that way? Which I guarantee you, if you clip this, you're going to get people like, how could you think that way?
Yeah.
How could you be so callous? How, even with the fact that you've had experience of loss of a child, according to your feelings, and I completely agree with you. If we had a miscarriage, I'd be devastated as well, how much I love my kids. So I get it. And so even with that context that you have a deep-seated traumatic experience of miscarriage, and you still have these particular beliefs, people are still going to rip into you anyway. But that's the point. We talked about this last podcast. We should be the ones talking about this.
Yeah.
It should be okay for us to bring this up, right? Hurts and all.
What does it say?
Look at that. Look at that. 53% of marriages take place will end up divorce. Second marriages, 76%. Third marriages fail. Oh, it doesn't go up? 93. So essentially, I was wrong in my statistics. Apparently, you have a 53% chance of your first marriage failing, and then it's all hell to pay after that. 60%, 76%, 87%, 93%. So essentially, if you don't get it right on the first try,
it just gets easier and easier to do every year. Same thing with abortion.
Exactly. Just
after the first one, it gets easier to do the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. We need to be figuring out how to promote people to stay together, how to promote people to make more responsible decisions. This is where our focus should be, not telling people like the government should make these decisions for you.
Well, yeah, and clearly it ends up becoming an excuse. Like, no problem here. If you and I fight too much, we'll just get a divorce. If you and I do too much of the hanky-panky, we'll just abort the kid. No big deal. It's like, I don't know if that's the mental model that you want. I don't know if that's a lifestyle you want to have. And at some point, I would hope you finally get to a point where you're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe it's not the world around me. Maybe I'm just fucked up. Maybe I need to work on myself.
Something else I've seen in the comments recently is I did something about various government and media lies that we were given.
Yes.
And in that, I listed a bunch of different things. And one of them was regarding COVID. How they told us that we need to take the vaccine and that they told us that the COVID vaccine would prevent getting it. And I had a ton of comments, not only comments, but DMs of people going, Matt, you're lying to America.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
They never told you that if you get the vaccine, you wouldn't get COVID.
Really?
Dude, my shit's flooded with people telling me this.
These guys are plugged into the Matrix, bro.
And when I first saw the few comments, right, I was like, oh, internet trolls. They can't possibly believe this. But DM.
But the
DM,
numbers
DM.
are just too many.
And I'm clicking on their profile. They're like real people. Not just trolls, real people.
Real people who believe
that
this
had
shit.
to go out of the way to DM me privately and tell me, Matt, you are being dangerous. You are lying to America. They never said that if you get the shot, you can't get COVID. And I'm like, what the fuck? What? Where the hell have you been?
They're in a different matrix. They're not fed that stuff. They're only fed their matrix and what needs to be fed to them from that.
They're like, who said that? I was like, the president said that.
Yeah.
All the talking heads on news said that.
Every single one said it.
Fauci said that.
Yep.
The dancing comedians on late night,
Colbert, yeah.
they said that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you got to be kidding. And they're like, you're killing people. You are being dangerous. You are lying.
So
how can you live with yourself? I was like, I can't believe I'm reading this shit.
So you know what's here's the question that I have. How can we communicate that this is part of reality, but without
CDC confirms COVID-19 block transmission in the real world. Literally an article that says, look at this. That shit was fact checked. They're like, who said that? Nobody said that.
So now, Will, we have to show the counter. Find something that comes from the CDC, which there have been, that says none of the shit we talked about was actually effective.
Correct.
And so
that came after the fact.
Well, yeah, that's my point. Is that I think we should, if we can, be able to supplement our color commentary with this type of data, because there are people who clearly aren't plugged into the matrix that we have access to, right? And they're only fed this one narrative, and maybe they shut their brains off. That's okay, but the reality is you can't. You can, but it's a little unfair to you, Matt, for them to be digging into you and saying you're the reason why, when the fact of the matter is they're just fucking ignorant. They're not even ignorant. They're just ignorant.
Or are they just in complete denial?
They could be that too.
Because they promoted it. They told everyone it's true. And then now that it's proven to be false, they're like, nobody ever said that.
Yeah, I tweeted about this where I said projection is the narrative, right? You project your own insecurities of how you fucking failed on other people because they got it right? And actually, I was it's talking about quips. I was earlier in the podcast, I talked about one of the worst disses I ever heard, which is fucking your kids don't even like you. Like, that's a pretty big dig. Here's another dig that I learned at the track. I was talking with another guy, and we were talking about something, and I said something relatively probably smart sounding, and he turned to me, Matt, and I tell you, I actually got offended by his comment. You know what he said to me?
What?
He said, Peter, you're sounding like a vaccinated person. Fuck, dude. I was like, because I'm not. So I think that hurt a little bit more. I was like, fuck you, man. Fuck you. He's like, because he was essentially saying, alluding to, if you sound like this, you sound like you're uninformed. You sound like you're, stupid. And he said, you sound vaccinated. And I was like, fuck you, bro. Like, that actually kind of like dug a little bit,
Well, it used to be that if you want to tell someone to really fuck off, you say, go kill yourself or something like this.
Yeah.
Now it's, why don't you go get another booster?
Okay, so here's Anthony Fauci. Does he work with the NIH? Does he work with the CDC? I think so. I think he's kind of
in charge of all of it.
Yeah, I think he's kind of in charge. And by the way, Anthony Fauci, interestingly enough, is also the highest paid government employee.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's oxymoronic to say that you're the highest paid government employee. But here's the title. Dr. Anthony Fauci admits COVID vaccines don't work overly well at stopping infection. Interesting. Literally a year later from that original article that said vaccines are the shiznit.
They said it's 100%, and then it became 99%, and then it became 80%. And then they said, oh, they're breakthrough cases. Remember that word?
Yes.
Yeah. They said these are breakthrough cases.
So,
and all of a sudden, everyone's got a breakthrough case.
Well, the reality is science is never settled. It's never settled. The purpose of science is to continue to explore optionality and variability, permutations, and different results. Like nothing's ever settled. So when they started saying trust the science, that's when I knew I was being deeply propagandized. It's like, trust the science. The science is changing every fucking month.
So trending right now is this Joe Rogan proposal out into the world.
Wait. I want to pause you because I have seen so many accounts on YouTube being banned for talking about what you're about to talk about. You're going to talk about RFK?
RFK.
Okay, so he doesn't give a fuck. Dude, so many people are getting banned. Even the Daily Wire guys, because they're bringing it up.
RFK.
Like even Mike Tyson's interview with him got banned.
Yes, but we're not interviewing him.
Okay. I don't know.
RFK is currently the number one Democratic opponent to Joe Biden for president. Yes. He is a well-respected and researched man on vaccines and such.
And he has deep political history.
Correct. He is extremely anti-vaccine. He is on the complete opposite side of the spectrum.
I don't want to use that word. I think he's more a vaccine skeptic than a vaccine denier or anti-vaccine.
He is on one side of the argument.
Well, that's where they want to box him. I'll concede this. Okay. Continue.
There is a Peter Hotez who is on the other side. This guy on the other side of the argument. He is a pro-vaccine. He works in vaccines. He works in mRNA. He receives funding from NIH.
Yes.
He is very well respected in his field.
Yes.
He is extremely pro-vaccine.
Yes. If you were paid like he's paid by the vaccine companies, you would be too.
And he is not just a random scientist. This is the talking head in pro-vaccine.
Yep.
He does podcasts on why vaccines are amazing, how they work. He is on CNBC. He's on MSNBC. He's on CNN. He's on every news channel giving his side of the story. RFK and Peter Hotez are on complete opposite sides of the spectrum. Joe Rogan has done podcasts with both. His proposal was, let's get them together and have them debate it. I want to know. I think the vaccines are bullshit. But this guy, who's extremely smart, extremely well respected in his field, says otherwise. The other guy says, like me, I think they're bullshit. I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy will be so convincing that I'm like, fuck, maybe I should get it.
Have you watched his Joe Rogan interview?
I get it. But again, this is the guy.
Yeah,
It's so easy to dismiss him because like he's kind of unlikable, but he's the guy, right?
I'm not dismissing him. I just think that if you now you and I are a different breed of people. We are willing to and we enjoy long form. 99% of people in the world don't enjoy long form. They're not going to sit there fucking listening for 3 hours at Joe Rogan podcast. And so that, I'm going to use this word, it's going to be a little terse, but in many cases that disqualifies most people from good social commentary. If you watch this man talk for 3 hours on Joe Rogan, you'll have a really good perspective of his intellect. You'll have a real good perspective on his sophistication. You'll have a real good perspective at his ability to defer, deflect, and not answer the questions. So, if you listen to this man, you are not convinced, this is me, you are not convinced that this man is not a fucking sock puppet. He's got the vaccine companies, his sponsorship companies so far up his ass, you can see the hand moving when his mouth moves. And so I just think that in most cases, not enough diligence is done by the audience to really fully understand how Peter Hotez is going to get absolutely destroyed by a career politician and effective communicator as RFK. So I would like them to have the conversation. I think the reason why Dr. Peter Hotez is not, and he's smart, is because he's going to be destroyed.
So Joe Rogan offered $100,000 to donate to the charity of Peter Hotez's choice to do this debate.
And it was ante up big time.
It is, last I looked, the current ante to do this debate is at over $2.6 million.
Wow.
People are, I'll pay 100. I'll pay 250. Wow. I think Andrew Tate offered 500 into the pot.
Really?
Yeah.
To see
this both sides of them debate this topic. Were these vaccines bullshit or not? Let two colliding ideas come together and let people decide.
If he is the preeminent expert on vaccines, then certainly you would want to get his perspective, bottom dollar, end of story. What's the bottom line? Like, tell us.
And if you're a scientist, all you got to do is back up your own data and your claims.
It should be relatively easy with all the information that's out there.
And if you really cared about helping people, as you say you do, they're willing to donate $2.6 million to the charity of your choice. You can donate to further vaccine research.
I mean, let me ask you this, Matt, if you were so convinced about a particular subject and you had such deep subject matter expertise in this particular subject.
And my entire life was built around that subject matter.
And you would have to have the confidence commensurate with that type of time spent. Then certainly you would be like, fuck yeah. You're offering me a debate? I've been 30 years deep in this thing. Come at me, bro. But interestingly enough, he doesn't seem to be as excited about this opportunity. Now, why do you think that is?
And even crazier is that there are people on the pro-vaccine side going, yeah, he shouldn't do this debate. It's below scientists. Oh. Scientists shouldn't debate. This is not what scientists do.
Oh, I can't believe that shit.
And I was like,
I can't believe that shit.
They are fucking hiding him.
I hate hearing that. I hate hearing shit like, you shouldn't debate.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Why? Why shouldn't we debate?
You literally told an entire nation, entire world of people to take an experimental shot, and you don't want to go online and back up your claim. You'll do it in person. You'll do it in small form. You'll do it on a podcast by yourself, but you don't want anyone to challenge your ideas. How good is your science if you can't take any criticism?
Science by definition needs to constantly be challenged so that we can learn more about what the fuck is going on.
And they'll say, but my papers are peer-reviewed by your echo chamber.
Yeah. Peer-reviewed papers are bullshit. I would know. I have 3 graduate degrees. I had peer-reviewed papers too.
It's literally, hey, Matt, can you sign your name on this?
Exactly.
I'm your friend. And when I do a paper, can you sign mine?
That's
less. What peer-reviewed papers mean.
Brother knows. Brother knows.
People think, oh, it's peer-reviewed, so that's real science. It doesn't mean shit.
Just means that I got my dick stroked by someone else really easy.
It just means we co-signed each other.
Exactly.
If I have a paper and research that's going to come out in 5 years later, I am not going to leave you a negative review because later when I ask you, you may do the same to me.
Of course.
We just agree and sign. That's how it is. That's how science works. Everyone knows this. Anyone in the science world knows this is what happened.
It's a business like everything else.
But the people out there going, no, Peter Hotez, his stuff's peer-reviewed. It means something, but he's not willing to back up his own claims. I think it's bullshit. I think he's a coward.
Yeah, I agree.
And if he really cared, he would take the money and donate it to more vaccine research. It's so simple.
It seems like it's ridiculously simple. Some of you guys might ridiculously disagree with what Matt and I are saying here. So leave us a comment below, or if this is clipped, leave us a comment on Instagram or TikTok and let us know your feelings, because clearly this could be a heated debate at some level.
This is from 2 days ago. It was at 1.5 at 2 days ago.
That's amazing.
I think if we look more, it's at, I think I saw like 2.5 or something like this. Look at this. People are just throwing in money.
500 grand from Cobra Tate.
And your boy, Mark Cuban.
My boy.
Your boy, Mark Cuban.
That guy's a retard.
Your boy, Mark Cuban, went after Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I saw that.
For instigating hate and violence. And he did not miss the opportunity to plug his own pharmaceutical company.
Yep. Absolutely. It's interesting how the worms crawl out of the woodwork when things are on the line here, and certainly Mark Cuban is just rather unsophisticated with everything.
I used to really like him. I used to be a fan. He seemed like the guy that just told it how it is. He made his money. He's got the stories of how he started from nothing and he built from like his college dorm room, and he used to throw parties to make money. He has all these great origin stories. I was like, dude, this guy's a dude. This guy's a man. This guy figured his shit out. He made a bunch of money, bought a basketball team. I was like, awesome.
Yes.
This guy's my fucking hero.
And let me ask you this. The reason why you might not respect Mark Cuban as much anymore is because he got into politics.
Because he showed himself to be a sellout cuck.
Fair enough. And a lot of that is in the context of politics.
Politics.
I mean, politics is so toxic, man. Like once if you're a successful businessman and then you have all this success and you have too much free time and then you get socially inclined, then you start talking about like weather modification or environmental damage or whatever it is, then people start not giving you the credence anymore, right? They don't respect you anymore. It's almost as if you should just stay in your lane as a businessman, because once you get into politics or social commentary, then people fucking hate you. Or it shows how unsophisticated you really are.
He made that one comment, I think a few weeks ago or a month ago, that really bothered me. He said something like, a business going woke is a good business decision.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, you didn't have to. Like, you could have just shut the fuck up.
Yeah, but he's trying to raise his ESG score.
I know. And I'm like, oh, then you're one of those guys. And then all of a sudden, like, I don't know. I thought he was different. And then when you see the truth about someone, you're like, fuck. And all of a sudden, it just shatters everything they've done.
It does. Because once they're blatant about their messaging and it's like, wait, who are you talking to? Are you talking to us, or are you talking to your partners, or your vendors, or your contractors, or your supporters, or suppliers, or your donors? Like, that comment had no contextual bearing on anything that were like your real audience. Clearly, you're just playing to the piper, right? Once you see behind the veil and you see that they're playing to the piper or they're paying the man, dude, the entire image kind of dissipates, doesn't it?
So we both watched the interview of Andrew Tate.
We were going to talk about this.
We were going to talk about it last week,
my
and
gosh.
we just got off track.
Did you watch Tristan's interview as well?
I like Tristan's much better.
Much better.
Much better. I like him much better.
More refined.
Yes.
More refined.
More refined, it seems more honest with his words, it feels like.
There's
less show.
There's less show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he has, it's Tristan the Talisman Tate. I liked his story about how he became the talisman.
Yeah.
Because he was working with some black dude, I guess, at a bar or something like that back in the day. And he was just good luck.
Yeah.
And what I really appreciated about that namesake is that, I'll be honest here. When he started talking about that he's a talisman and he's a great homie to have if you're doing anything, I was like, man, this motherfucker knows his place in the lineup.
And we all need one of those in our lives.
That's exactly where I was going. We need a talisman like Tristan Tate on our side, because whatever you're doing, just by having that talisman, it's going to be that much better. So he's the right guy to support an Andrew Tate.
So that was his first real podcast once he got out of prison, once they both got out of prison.
Do you feel like Andrew Tate was successful in communicating his innocence to the general public?
I get it. I don't think he did it. And if he did, I think it's so old. And at this point, it seems real. It's another political witch hunt is what it feels like. It's not something that needs so much attention. I feel like they could move on from this if they really wanted to. I get his point. I get that side.
Do you think he's on a downward slope in terms of engagement, audience, relevance, these types of things? Is he becoming a stale entity in the social world today?
I don't know, because I was getting that feeling, especially when he came out and there was nothing happening and it kind of seemed to fizzle. But then he was live streaming on Rumble, and I clicked into it, and there was like 500,000 people in there watching live stream. I was like, maybe he's not fizzling at all. That's a lot of damn people.
I think what the Matrix is doing, what he calls the Matrix all the time, right? What the Matrix is doing is trying to force non-relevancy, because he's stuck in an island at home. Once he gets out of home lockdown and he starts traveling to Dubai and starts traveling to all these different countries that that he likes to travel to, I think that's what the Matrix doesn't want, is that because he can proliferate himself out to the world far better when he's out on the scene than just stuck in Romania at home, right? So I think the my first initial thought about him fizzling out is because he's landlocked. But if he wasn't landlocked and he was able to travel freely, unfettered, I think his media monster would just explode.
So can we talk about what we like and don't like about his message?
Sure. You go first.
I like the part of men need to have responsibility, that they need to get out of their feelings, that need to get off their ass, do shit, get it done. Doesn't matter how you feel. I love that message. I love the message that men should be physically strong, take care of their surrounding, be a part, and be responsible for their family. I love that message.
They both brought that up, by the way, their families as being a very integral part of who they are and the values that they derive from it.
And they say that. I hate that they are not active participants of their children's lives.
I almost knew you were going to go there because that's something that we care a lot about. They're both dads, but the question is, what degree of being a good father are they?
Correct. Right? And they are under the premise that a man should be able to teach lessons, but don't actively be there. And they used to say this thing, which I used to repeat, but I don't agree with anymore. Andrew Tate used to say, a child doesn't need two mothers. And it made sense to me at the time. You don't need two people coddling them to take care of their health. One person can do that, and one person should teach lessons. I agree. I don't think you can teach proper lessons by seeing them once a month.
No, there's not
I
enough
think
time
it's
for
a
it.
daily thing.
Oh, it is actually the greatest lessons that your kids will learn are not the salient moments that you as an adult think are important. It's the moments that are absolutely mundane and rote, maybe even scripted, maybe even such a tradition that it's almost like cakewalk or they're almost on autopilot. Because I can tell you, maybe it's my own experience. You correct me if you feel differently based on your experience. But the most poignant moments of my early childhood were not the high points on the mountain. It was the mundane moments with my parents. It's the mundane and rote and regular moments with my family that I deeply remember the most, and they were the most impactful. And that only could come about because of presence and time, right, spent. And so I think that, for me at least, that's, for me, the model of being present and active and engaged in your child's life is far superior to those mountaintop moments that you think as an adult are important to you and to your child. They're not as important. The fact of the matter is the child just wants you to be engaged every day.
The other day, my daughter started eating, we started giving her corn.
Oh, hard food?
Hard food. Yeah. Well, so she's been eating hard food for a while, but we give her like little pieces of corn on the cob. And she'll sit there and like just chew on it. She only got 2 teeth, but she eats it.
Oh, that's
or
perfect.
socks on it or whatever.
That's perfect.
It's really cute. And I think on either Friday or Saturday, she takes like 5 steps now. She took 5 steps, ran towards me, and decided she wanted to share her corn with me. And she gave it to me to like eat too. And that was the most awesome feeling that she went out of her way. She can barely walk. She walked towards me and wanted to share her corn, which she loves, with her dad. And that was a really touching moment. If you're not there, you're never going to experience that.
You're never going to experience it. And the options for your daughter, that young child, to live out a deeply ingrained, no one could ever say that your daughter cognitively thought that through. She didn't sit to herself and say, I'm feeling full. I've had enough corn. My dad's sitting right there. He seemed like he's cornless and he needs some corn. Like, your daughter didn't go through that mental exercise.
No.
This was a natural, soul-given, maybe intuited action that required no cognitive consideration. Without presence, she would not be given that. If you weren't there, she would not have that outlet.
Correct.
For that love. Say less. I'm on the same page with you, brother.
And I wish that was a message they put more. They have so many eyes. They talk about the importance of taking care of your family, the Tates do. But and I don't want to judge them because I don't know what their actual interaction with their kids are.
Peace. Fair enough.
But from what we've seen, the interactions are limited.
Very limited.
Even if they say we see them once a week, even if they say we see them twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, it's not every day.
It's not every day.
And they're men of means where they could.
Yes.
if they wanted to.
Well, I saw a recent statistic. I'm going to get this wrong, Will, because I always get it wrong by a percentage point because I just make shit up. But I do read this stuff. It was something like the average parent spends like only 37 minutes a day with their kids. So, first off, spending a half hour with your kids a day is not enough. Let's extrapolate this out to the Tate's example. Spending a half hour a day is not enough. Spending one time a week, maybe 3 hours in that time.
Even if it was 8.
You ain't making it up. You ain't making up that time. And so again, Matt and I are not judging the Tates. We don't know how they're, but what we can extrapolate is that as much as they, and this is the dissonance that you're talking about, as much as they promote family values, as much as they promote taking responsibility, there's a little bit of dissonance, tension, and conflict because it doesn't look like they're living that out. And so it could seem hypocritical that they're all about, or they give good lip service towards family. But at least perception-wise, it doesn't look like they actually live that out.
It's a tough one. You know, I know that we both really liked Gary Vee.
We did like Gary Vee until he sold out to the man.
He's a sellout. Well, they're all sellouts, but he is a sellout. But he always preached, you got to work so hard and you got to create content, which we get the idea of creating content from.
Yeah.
And that I outwork everyone. That's his thing.
Yep.
Right? But he worked so hard that he couldn't keep his family together.
Nope. Couldn't.
And that's tough.
And for his being as public as he is, he didn't make that known.
Mm-mm.
And not like you need to, but at the same time, if you're promoting, it's like the Liver King. Remember the Liver King?
Yeah.
Do you remember the Liver King, Will? Remember the Liver King, the guy that's always walking around like jacked up? He's got 6-pack abs, and he was telling everybody like, don't do drugs, don't do like, enhancers and stuff. And then finally he admitted that he used steroids and all this shit. It's kind of the same idea. Like Gary Vee was promoting all of this, where his home life was sucks.
Correct.
Right. And like going back to my original metaphor and my original example earlier in the podcast, Gary Vee, you can have a $370 million company, a $120 million venture capital arm. You can be rolling out hundreds of millions of dollars in NFTs, but your family fucking hates you. Is he successful? I don't know if I could call him successful if you have $500 million in the bank, but your family fucking hates your guts. I mean, what's the value of that?
And it's tough, right? Because if you want to get big on the internet and you want to go viral, you need to make sacrifices.
Fair enough.
The problem is that people often have to sacrifice family.
I sacrifice family. I wish we were talking to our Paris and our Belfast, Ireland guests today in the Matt Kim podcast studio, talking about grinding when you're young and the balance between grinding and building a family. It's rough. I mean, the early stages of my daughter's life, I was absent, full period, full stop. I was fucking absent. And if I could do life over again, would I try to be more? Absolutely. Could I have succeeded in where I am without all of that, giving up all of the first 3 years of her life? Most likely. Will I ever get that time back? Never. That's the regret.
Right here, Modern Family. Average parent spends just 5 hours face-to-face with their kids per week.
I think that comes out to be about 40 minutes a day. Right?
I make a conscious effort every day to spend 3 hours of actual full attention time with my daughter. Yeah. Because she's so young.
Daggone.
And I feel like 3 hours is necessary.
I agree.
1 hour in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. If you split it up that way, it's not difficult to do.
And the nighttime and the morning routine and nighttime routine are required.
Correct.
So you might as well get your reps in.
1 hour in the morning, read her a book, spend some time, speak to her, play with her. In the evening,
change the diaper.
Yeah, same thing in the evening. Read to her, talk to her, tell her about my day, let her tell me about her day in her mumbling words, right? But she looks forward to telling me about her day. I can feel that. Even though she can't make words, she looks forward to me coming home and her telling me.
Yes, if we look at the deeper, she just wants to connect.
Correct.
That's all she wants to do is connect with you.
And if that means I need to sleep 2 hours less, not the end of the world.
So be it.
If it means I can't watch a football game one night, not the end of the world. If it means I may have to cut down on a drink or two, not the end of the world. So those sacrifices are so easy to make, but yet people don't do it.
So it sounds like, Matt, that having children is a great way to mature and grow personal responsibility and realize that your life isn't your fucking own anymore.
But the problem is that given that opportunity to make those sacrifices, given that opportunity to connect with your child, people still don't take it. It's difficult.
Well, because you're touching on something that could be ingrained culturally from your family. It could be a familial consideration. Some would argue that if you're not taught that in family, then you don't know how to do that.
And
do you feel that to be true? Because I'm just going to blurt it out. I think that's bullshit. I think I don't know about you, just speak from my experience. When I was in the delivery room for those 2 fucking kids and they popped out of my wife, my fucking life changed. I had feelings that I could never explain or really communicate to you, the feelings I felt of like, fuck, my life is done. Not in a bad way, but like, I'll give you the 2. When my daughter was born, I had a fire emerge in my heart that I had never felt before, Matt. It was this warm glow of like burning fire in my soul, in my heart area when she was, and it's really hard for me to explain. Like, I felt like I had to force myself to not grab her from the nurses when they were cleaning her off. Like, I had to like functionally constrain myself from wanting to cover this child with love and give it the physical touch that I wanted, that I needed. When my son was born, there was a feeling of success. Weird. I'll never forget it. It was a feeling of success that I had never felt before from all of the worldly successes that I had achieved, from getting my first company acquired, to building venture funds, to publishing books, to speaking internationally, to receiving accolades on stage. Like there was this, it was the greatest satisfaction of success moment. And it was not because he was born, but it was this future feeling of, man, like his trajectory as a man is directly correlated to my engagement with him moving forward. And that is going to be the success of my life, is going to be mirrored or exemplified in how he is raised. And he will be an example of my parenting. And so I could wax poetic on these feelings forever because they're hard to explain and they're all encompassing. But here's my point. I find it hard to believe that deep nurture and care for children is not ingrained. Right? When people say, "Oh, I wasn't raised in a family that cared. I was raised in a family that didn't show this." It's like bull fucking shit. If you have your own kid and you're there in the operating room or in the delivery room, and you see that child popped out that is 100% you and 100% your spouse or your significant other, your partner, whatever, like, if you are not transformed by that experience, you fucking made something out of nothing. Out of all the things that you're going to achieve, Matt, your daughter is the greatest example of your entire humanity. Not this podcast studio, this great, amazing business that you've built here, Matt, pales in comparison to the life of that girl that you have under your management now.
So I grew up in a really traditional immigrant family, right? Parents were busy. They weren't at home much. Kind of had to raise yourself. They loved me. They cared for me. They did their best, but they just weren't around as much as
I know your mama's watching too.
I know. Sorry, Mom.
Hey, Amma.
But they weren't around as much. They had other things going on. And I get it. I think a lot of children of immigrants can relate to that, right? I think because I went through so much struggle to have our first child. We had 10 years of being married, of not having a kid, multiple miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies. We knew how difficult it was for us to have a child. And by the time we had our child, I was a little bit older. I appreciate it more. I understand it a little bit better. I'm a little more mature to deal with that situation. If I had a kid when I was 25, maybe I'd probably do things differently.
Oh, you
I wouldn't
totally
be
would.
mature. I'm fortunate in life that I had a baby later. I'm able to have these types of thoughts, to give back, to understand that I don't need to hang out more. When you're 25 and you have a baby, you kind of still want to hang out.
Yeah. What a bunch of losers.
Now I'm like, I don't care if I hang out. I've already done all my hanging out. So maybe that's the disconnect there. And I get it. If you're young again, it's not easy to make these sacrifices. But it's really easy to make these sacrifices.
Yeah, I was about to counter your argument and say, actually, it's just a fucking decision.
You just got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and again, going back to where we started, seeing these guys in their 50s and 60s and their kids are not visiting them. It's sad.
It's now you can't fully judge because maybe their kids are busy and they got lives. Peace, fair enough. But you can't discount their discontent, their sullenness, or their countenance that clearly shows that they're regretful or they're disappointed. So, which means there was an expectation here established in your family. Which means if they're not showing up for Father's Day, you done fucked up. No, you done fucked up. It's not your kid's fault. You know, they're not there to repair what you fucked up. You were the adult.
And in our society, we want to get rid of all tradition.
That's why we talk so heavily about family values and like family units, and let's just say the traditional nuclear family.
But these types of traditions, these very small acts of not running away from your family on Father's Day, but running towards them on Father's Day, such a simple thing to do. These little things will change your entire life forever.
Can I tell you what I did for Father's Day?
What did you do?
I went and saw my parents in Austin.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You
Did I send you those pictures?
No, but you haven't been there in a while.
3 years.
That's
Because since lockdown happened, my parents, who I love very dearly, are part of the alternative matrix. And the alternative matrix told them that this is a scary thing. They should get vaccinated. They should stay at home and not leave. And that, unfortunately, created a very sedentary, non-mobile, lifestyle for them. And so me being on the other side, traveling and living my life essentially created not a chasm, but it created somewhat of a divide because, I'm out living life, going to track, doing anything like lockdown, it didn't really change anything for me. I was still out. I was still doing stuff. I didn't wear a mask only when I was required to. But my parents are on the other side of that. So for me, Father's Day, I wanted to make, especially since things have loosened up, let's be honest, more information has come out and people are realizing, oh shit, I listened to the wrong advice. For me, going and visiting my parents was exactly the thing that I needed to do for Father's Day, to reconnect to my parents, who I love dearly. And so I think if I were to give myself any particular credit, considering the context of what we've talked about so far, I love my parents, and during Father's Day, I want to go see them. Amazing. They did a good job. Now, they didn't do a perfect job, but
no one does.
But enough for me within my busy schedule to say, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to fly out there for 24 hours, hang out with my parents, sleep in, one of their guest beds, and just spend time with them because that matters.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That reminds me of one final story I kind of want to end with. I have a friend who, during 2021, went on a family vacation. It's one of these where the grandparents show up, the cousins show up, 20 people.
Family affair.
Huge family vacation. This is 2021. They had a rule. Everyone that shows up to this house must be vaccinated.
Oof.
2021. You can see that.
I can see it, yeah.
The matriarch of the family is very much into that.
Okay, understood.
So you have to.
Okay.
You're going to come see grandma, you all have to get the shot.
Yep.
I get it. It's very relevant to that time.
Peace.
One family of the 6 or 7 did not get vaccinated, and they showed up. During their family trip, people got COVID. They said this fucking guy didn't get the shot, and he put grandma at risk.
Oof.
He tried to kill all of us.
Oh, man.
Because of him, we all have COVID.
Oh, man.
They got into a battle. on Facebook, within their family. They don't talk, etc.
That was by design.
Now, we all know the truth. That guy probably didn't give everyone COVID, and most likely that it was someone else within that family that was vaccinated that probably gave everyone else
because
COVID.
everyone who got vaccinated is constantly shedding all that shit all over.
We already know this now.
Yeah, it's all,
And I asked, has anyone ever apologized to this guy?
Man, can you imagine the amount of vindictiveness he has in his heart?
Because they don't talk anymore.
Yeah, he should be so pissed.
They told his own family turned on him because he thought he shouldn't have to take the shot.
Yeah. That's heartbreaking to hear because this is not an uncommon story.
Happened everywhere.
Everywhere. Families were literally broken up because of this medical decision. Which, by the way, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, medical decisions are generally private.
Correct.
So how did we normalize medical decisions? I mean, next time I get a hepatitis B vaccine, shot, I'm gonna let everybody know. Guys, I got syphilis last week at the bar. Just want to let everybody know that I took the antibacterials and now I'm fucking syphilis free. It's like fuck off.
Send us pics.
Fuck off. Yeah, pics or it didn't happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy.
It's crazy. I'm really sad to hear that. So, have they repaired it or no?
No.
Oh, fuck off.
If you are that family who is the unvaccinated family that showed up at the family reunion is usually the outlier. They've become the outcast over the years. If you were on the side of going after that family, if you were the side that said, yes, they're wrong, use this as an opportunity to just call them. Because they just want to be heard. They want to be reached out to. They felt alienated, ostracized by the entire family. I don't think it's their job to come back to you. I think it's your job as that family to go and get them back.
Wow, dude, you are, Matt, I hope this is clipped. I hope this is socialized because you are essentially asking all of the people who did wrong to man or woman up, take responsibility, and admit fault. That's so hard to do within the ego of man. You're asking people to lower their ego, be humble, and accept and maybe not accept, it's a tough word, but admit that they were misinformed and that they caused division and strife in the family because of lack of information. Like you're asking a big ask to the population to admit fault, man.
And I'm not telling you to call your random neighbor that you might have judged.
Fuck your neighbor.
This is your family.
Yeah. It's your family.
They will forgive you so quickly. All you got to do is reach out.
I feel like, have you had to do this?
I don't know if I have. Have you?
I'm the unvaccinated one. So everybody owes me a fucking apology.
Thank you. Have a good week, everybody. See you next time.
There have been people that have come up in my head. Yeah. Where I'm like, you fucking owe me an apology. And I know you're never going to say shit. Like, you owe me a fucking apology.
Everywhere.
But I don't hold a chip on my shoulder. But man, like, there are people in my life where I'm like, you fucking owe me. You said something that we all know is wrong.
And it's not like you're solely wrong. Everyone was wrong. So to go out of your way and just make that little gesture, it's not like, oh, you're the only one wrong. Like, so many people are wrong. What's wrong with just saying, bro,
People are wrong all the time.
you're my family. I love you. I'm sorry. Let's move on. And that's it. You get over it quick.
Get over it quick.